Hey guys, Josh here at Forge Performance and 4x4, and in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at what's involved in part 1 of our LS conversion to GU. Part 1 is going to be covering removing all the unneeded components and tidying up the engine bay. We're going to be looking at taking the power steering reservoir and support brackets out, as well as a lot of the wiring brackets, the clutch master and slaves, as well as associated lines. We're going to be deleting the vacuum reservoir because it's no longer required. The diesels have a vacuum pump on the back of the alternator, whereas the LSs actually generate vacuum. Some people say you could keep it if you're running a massive cam, but the size of the cam that you're going to be having in the vehicle to make use of that, it's not going to be very practical for off-road use. We're also going to be removing the coolant expansion tank as well as its overflow. This vehicle was a ZD30, so that has the twin setup. We like to change those over to a single expansion tank, as well as changing the radiator to a TD42 or TB45 expansion and radiator. It does involve removing some spot welds where they've got the little brackets, but underneath those spot welds you'll find that they've got the bolts and you can bolt that expansion tank straight in. We're also going to remove some of the heat shields that are no longer required just around the fuel lines and the brake lines, because we're going to be bending those out the way in part 2, as well as relocating the diff breathers. Now, in most cases we like to remove the diff breathers and replace them with an aftermarket kit, such as a BRC kit. We use the BRC kits because, well, they're local for us. They have great support and they're available in lots of different kits, as well as a universal kit. We typically run the 4-port breather set. The line's really good, it works great. You can get front and rear diff, as well as transfer case and gearbox all in one. Nice little nifty piece, it's about yay big, and up on the firewall you don't have to worry about it, it's done. We're also going to remove the fuel filter head because that's no longer required, and just a few other little bits and pieces, and move a few lines around. And so this is going to be part 1. Part 2 is going to cover a couple of other things, and let's get into it. One of the biggest things I've found that really helps is to actually just jump in the engine bay. You can get at things a lot easier. You can access components. You can physically get in there and get into it without trying to lean over the guard. Most of the time you're going to find that by trying to lean over, you're actually going to cause more damage than you can just jump in. Makes it heaps easier. Anyway, we're going to get started. So as I was saying, power steering reservoir, that's gone. Bracket supporting the power reservoir, that's gone. A couple of other little brackets here. These brackets can go. They can all go, that's no problem. There is a line that runs along that was originally feeding the power steering coolant. That's actually going to go. We're going to bend the line and utilise that as a return for the power steering pump. So anyway, I'm going to rip into this, and you can sit back and watch. Another thing to keep in mind is if you haven't got any power steering system, which I haven't yet, it is going to make a bit of a mess. So make sure you get a bucket or a container underneath you so you can catch it all. I am using power tools, of course. It's going to make the process a lot quicker for me, which makes it a lot more. So as I was saying, we're going to remove the bulk of the power steering lines. The main one we need to keep is the one that comes out of the power steering box and then across to the power steering cooler. The other line is going to be deleted, but don't cut the aluminium bracket that's down here, because we're actually just going to bend that up, and then that will act as the return to the LS reservoir. So nip through here. Keep in mind that I haven't drained it. Just going to make a bit of a mess. Not going to be a part that long. We're actually going to be modifying the control high pressure line to match up with the LS line, and that will go and bolt on. So we're going to be reusing the bulk of that. With the lines down here, you can just put the side cutters straight through one of the brackets. Less boring for you. Now we've got all this out, we can go and chuck it aside. We do need to keep this section. So as you can see, we now have our power steering pump reservoir. As you can see, we've gone through, we've removed the redundant lines, we've removed the reservoir and the pump. While we were there, we've also cut the adapter to the high pressure line off. We're going to braze this onto the LS1 high pressure line, and that'll essentially get us our power steering line made up. We've put the banjo bolts back into the steering box so that it doesn't get any contamination into it. And as you can see, you've got the return line that runs out, up, over, and what we're going to be doing is taking the original return line, and what you want to do is you brace it at the bottom and just very gently twist. Now you don't want to be forcing these lines, you want to just have a nice gentle twist into it so that you don't kink it. Being aluminium, it does move quite nicely, but it is easily enough kinked. So front diff, that just runs up underneath the engine mount bracket. That can now go in the bin, we don't need it anymore. And we're just going to cut through the other two feeds from the transfer case and the gearbox, and then we're physically going to reposition the line. Once you've gotten all those lines out from the diff breathers and the transfer case breathers, you can go ahead and remove these three lines. You won't be using them anymore. On the subject of brackets and what we can remove, there's a couple of brackets that sit in the patrol engine bay that were originally used to hold the ZD30 loom. They're now redundant, we don't need them anymore. So, that's this bracket. And this bracket. If you're wondering why I am using ratchet spanner and not the rattle gun, I dropped it, I can't reach it. This one, gone as well. I was actually smart this morning, I put the bin in the right spot. And we've also got a bracket down here. It used to be used for holding the diesel fuel filter head. This bracket here, that's going, that'll get replaced by a bracket from Mark. Yeah, you don't need it anymore. I don't know if it's exactly the best location for filming, whether you're going to catch everything. Yeah. So, anyway, we're also going to get rid of our clutch master cylinder. That gets replaced when we change over. So we can crack that line off once again. If you haven't drained it, it's going to make a bit of a mess. You don't want to be getting that on your paintwork, and if you do, you need to wash it off just using plain water. The only downside to working in the engine bay is you drop anything and it can be an absolute to get in. As I was saying, rip out the slave cylinder, the master cylinder, it's no longer required anymore. It gets replaced with a unit from Marks. Now, important thing to know is you have two bolt options. They bolt in from the side, they bolt in this way and this way. You want to remove the two bolts on the side and leave the remaining bracket on the... So as I was saying guys, the clutch master cylinder bolts up to the booster here. This is the bracket here that we want to leave on. You could pull it off, but there's no point, you're going to have to put it back on again. This is the push rod that we're going to be adjusting later on, and we'll go through how to adjust that correctly. Now, these lines that run over to our clutch slave, everything that attaches to that, including the damping valve, is all going to be removed. While you're removing things across the firewall, this line here, which goes over, can also be removed. So these are no longer required, they're being deleted, and we're going to be ripping them out so they can go while you're cutting things. The only downside with a car like this that does have quite a few aftermarket accessories fitted to it is you have a lot of wiring running across the back of the firewall, and in all honesty we want to try not to disturb that too much. Now, when removing our line for our boosters, we want to be keeping these rubber lines, because what we're actually going to do is turn this rubber line around 180 degrees, and we're going to do the same with the brake booster, moving him. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a T-piece between these two lines, so they're now pointing at each other. That's going to run along the back of the firewall and then join into our LS vacuum hose. This is the neatest way I've found to do it. Keeps everything nice and simple. Anyway, I've got about 2,000 cable ties to cut so I can get these lines out. Stay tuned. Just another note, we're not reusing any of the clips along the back of the firewall there. We're not reusing any of these clips that run along the back here, so if you don't want to be too gentle with them, you don't have to be. In most cases, you just... Some people are probably looking at this going, oh, you don't need to do that, Josh. You don't have to remove all of this and that and all these other bits and pieces. But I'll tell you what, it makes for a hell of a lot nicer conversion. It looks a lot tidier, and you're not having to worry about, well, what's this plug here? What's this wire here? Why isn't this plugged in anymore? If you're out in the bush and you start finding plugs that are disconnected or wires going to places that you don't require anymore, it's going to make your life a bit of a nightmare when it comes time to diagnose it. This is the nicest thing that you can do for a customer, is delete redundant stuff. And this isn't just for LS swaps, this is for any sort of conversion. You know, if you're sitting there leaving bits and pieces in, just take them out. They're not needed anymore. makes the job a lot nicer. So this is our clutch line. That's gone. Don't need that anymore. Beautiful. Alright. Now it's starting to get a bit more like it. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not cutting the lines. In most cases, I just cut all of this out. Most cases, I just cut all of this out. It's never going to be used again. I've never met someone that's come up to me and said, Josh, have you got a line that runs across the back of the firewall as I've converted ZDP? So, off we go. Beautiful. Okay, so these are those two vacuum lines that I'm telling you about that are now no longer. They run across the firewall. These, gone. You'll also need this line. This line comes off the reservoir here. It's got a one-way valve in it, so just chuck it aside for the moment. We're going to cut that one-way valve out and fit it to the brake master booster. If we don't fit that, you won't have a booster because you won't have any vacuum stuck in there. So just chuck that one aside. So this piece here can also be removed, as well as down to the clip and the clutch slave. They're not needed, cut them out. All of these diff breathers are also going to be removed completely. There's two methods I use for removing the clips, fork clips that go over the lines. First one is I'll grab a pair of needle nose pliers in straight or bent or 90 degrees, and they'll rip those out. The other way is using a set of like a multi-grip, and you grab the clip and physically pull it. So in this case, I reckon I've got enough room. These little buggers. Most of the time you can get on them, just onto the side of the clip like so, and just out she comes. You'll have to remove and separate the two pieces. Now this is just going to go in my bucket down here. They're not going to be used again, and they're gone. Right, now in this case we're going to have to remove the dual battery system. It's not going to be removed permanently, obviously. We're physically just getting rid of it so that we can get to our expansion tanks, and then that can get rid of that. So I'll go ahead and get this out. And alright, so as you can see, we've gone and removed the overflow bottle and the expansion tank. Now I'm going to grab a drill and we're going to remove these two brackets as they are no longer required and they're covering up our holes. Right, so we're going to be drilling out these two brackets. What I use when we're doing a bracket like this is I use a Worth spot drill. Now, you don't have to use a spot drill, you can use a normal drill when it comes to drilling out spot welds, but I found that this gives a lot better result, a lot cleaner finish. This particular drill is a 7.5 10mm drill, so it actually has a stepped shoulder, and that stepped shoulder will open up once you've gone through the first spot weld, and it'll stop you drilling right through the panel. Where that circular impression is, and you want to find the middle of that impression, and you take your spot weld drill, and there's a little tiny little knobbly bit on the end of it. You line that up in the middle. Now, if you got it in the right spot, it should be pretty good. It should be. So there's 4 spot welds on this particular bracket on this side, and I believe there's 3 on the other side. There we go. And as you can see, in behind here, we've got a thread. So that's, as you can see, it's left a really nice finish. So that's that bracket removed. That one, off it goes. Sorry if that was a bit loud. Now we're going to do the same thing again on the other one. Alright, so those of you wondering, overflow tank part number is DOT0012. So it's Patrol GU GQ Series 123, 4.2 diesel and 4.5 petrol. And look at that, everyone loves new parts. So we're going to take 2 new bolts. You don't have to use new bolts, but you know, you're building a car that you really want to keep, so why wouldn't you? You get those bolts in, and wow, what a difference it makes. You notice I use power tools a lot when I'm pulling things apart, but I don't often use them when I'm putting things back together. You don't have a feel for things when you're using power tools, so it's okay to quickly nip things up, but in something like this new overflow tank, where it is made of plastic, the last thing you want to do is have the thing crack. Once again, these holes that we're putting these bolts into, they're already there, they're already threaded, they're ready to go, and yeah, easily accessible as soon as you remove those brackets. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I'm going to go and get out the steam cleaner and degrease the crap out of this engine bay, make sure it's all nice and spick and span, so that when we start prepping for cutting down our engine mounts, drilling our engine mounts, moving our fuel lines, we've got a nice clean engine bay to start with. We've pretty much done all the greasy dirty work. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment in the box below, let me know how I'm doing, if you think we're drawing this out a bit too much, or you know, if you'd like us to go into more details. Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Catch you all later.